Wow. Can you all just say that? Wow. One more time. Last time. Okay. We got goods up in here. Like serious visual media goods. So I'm going to start with a question asking the love for the short form, which is so big, and I'll start with you, and why that particular option when you could do long form and other forms, but you chose this one and it works so well.
To be honest, I feel it is a very challenging form. It's not simple to evoke certain feelings when you have so little to say, so little time to just show these characters and have certain emotions out of them. I always say the easiest for me would be to make a TV series, and then the less difficult one would be to make a feature film, and the most difficult but also super interesting to me is to make like a short, because you just it's like you got so little time to make people feel something. And the best things about shorts as well is that they're mostly screened in a program, and it feels like a common dream. It feels like we're all sharing these stories that definitely have a lot in common, and it's like a trance state that we all enter together. I watch the films, and we jump from one film to the other in the shorts we just watched, and to be honest, it just feels like dreaming. It touches something way deep, like in the subconscious, something that I may not completely understand, but I can certainly feel. I may not have the words to describe it, but it's things that I'm always thinking, I'm always imagining. It to me, honestly, today, like this particular program today felt very dreamy.
And I will ask the same question of you, to share how this particular format supported the creativity. Devin, start with you.
Yeah, thank you, Sister Malika, for the question, and thank you everyone for coming. The film that I worked on was called Where You From, and yeah, short format is definitely difficult. I second Ahmed's statements, and I kind of described it to my brother as, we come from a sports background, so it's kind of like, getting your lips down before you start shooting threes. So that's really how I look at it. And yeah, it's also great to be in conversation with all of these wonderful artists. This is my second time being in the program with Ahmed. This is also at Adesola. Adesola and I have worked together on many sets. So yeah, it's just really great to be in this company. And I second everything Ahmed said.
I'm going to take one more from Daty.
Yes. I worked on Blinded by the Lights, the animation. And for us, it was all about the message. And we felt, the best way to portray this was through animation. And what's happening in Africa right now, it was like, perfect timing. And, it just felt great to actually produce this because, being a Liberian, and whatever's happening in my country, and when we're working on this project, it was like, oh man, Burkina Faso, Mali, and all these places, and we were like, this is like the perfect time to release this project. So yeah, it was like when we understand content creation, you understand what message you want to put out, and what you want people to get out of it. And for us, this is call to action for us in the diaspora and also on the continent.
Ade, the young vibes that are in some of the films and just how much spark and life they have, being independent, being curious, and having a sense of who they are. What did you see in the film where you saw that exposed, the way the youth dynamic has shown in the series?
Like across the program or in Sister Sound?
Generally speaking, yes.
Can you say the question one more time?
Yes. Several of the films that were shown in this particular section had a lot to do with younger voices. And I was just wondering, in that regard, the importance of having those voices here and now?
Well, I think becoming is something that takes our entire lifetime. I'm especially interested in the way that happens in our youth. I think there's like a sense of possibility and potential at that time. I was really taken by the running film. What was it called?
Run Like We.
Run Like We.
Yeah.
But even that kind of like strain, who do my elders want me to be? Who am I actually? How do I articulate myself? I think there are questions that start at that age and then kind of pull through our whole lives. And I see that being a through line between the films, like understanding how to self-articulate from a place of like confidence and pride, like trying to reach for that. I think people spend their whole lives trying to do that.
There's a definite ability that one has to rise for the occasion to be able to receive how much power short films have. There's no limitation because when you attend film festivals, that's usually a feature. So I would like to ask you to respond to how this format can even be more accessible, you know, beyond the festival slates.
How can this format be more accessible beyond festivals? Yeah, I'm sorry. What do you mean by that exactly? Like where?
If for example, if they're accessible in school settings, making sure that students are able to come to attend them, it's affordable. I'll have to hold myself in charge of me not to say what's happening with education right now. So
Yeah.
bear with me, I might go off.
I think the short form. I'm Hans Augustave. I wrote and directed NYAFF. I think the short form. Actually, in my experience with my shorts, I've had a lot of teachers actually ask me, "Can I show my students?" And I think with most short films, there's less of an ownership from anyone higher than the writer director, so we have the ability to spread it more easily. I think we're usually a short form format. We're not trying to make any money, so we're giving it away for free as well. It's more about the message than all that comes with filmmaking as far as finances, and short attention spans. It's 2025, and it's the world of TikTok and IG. So if we can make a 17, 15, 20-minute film and say what you need to say, I think it packs a punch.
Absolutely. And in the realm of that, the smarts that we're hearing coming from what I earlier mentioned about the independent expressions that the young people were having, and particularly your film. That young man has quite a voice in sharing and saying what he wants to say. And I'm curious, first-time actor?
Yes.
Very, very first-time actor?
Very, very first time.
And how old is he?
He is a 10-year-old.
Wow. Let's applaud him.
His name is Shams Muhammad, and his mother is actually a famous actress in Egypt. But I was surprised because they both entered the audition. I didn't know she's his mother. Like I was auditioning the boy from a list, and his mother entered with him, and immediately I was like, okay, this runs in the family. The audition scene was the knocking on the door scene, and immediately I felt that this boy is feeling it. He's got it. He really wants to get inside this room, and he's got this so much anger inside him, and I chose him.
It's anger and love, actually.
Yes,
for his grandma.
absolutely.
Devin, the questions that were being asked of the young man about why he did certain things, how he ate, etc. Speak to your experience with that young actor.
Yeah, well, both of the young actors were spectacular. They were pretty much professional actors. They had done a lot of work before this, and yeah, they were great. It was really just about talking with them and trying to get them to think as the character, and to kind of let them direct themselves. So yeah, I think they accomplished that, and I think they did a spectacular job.
When you work with young people behind the camera, are they ever spunky enough to say something like how they want to do it, or do you just take charge? Be honest.
Yeah. In this case, I had to take charge. They were a little shy, and I'm also a shy person, so that might have come from me, the culture I was building on set. But yeah, I mean, I just had to try to get them out of that, and I actually wanted them to improv a lot. I wanted them to try to improv and, you know, kind of think, you know, as the character. And so they finally kind of started to do that towards the end. Abdul Amin, he's the older kid, so he improvised, you know, Africa to the world. He improvised a couple more lines, and you know, that's really where I think the film shines, where they were taking their character and running with it.
Daty, most times when you're completed the most recent, there's another one waiting on the back burner. What's up?
We've been lucky to be selected here twice, and we're an animation studio based in Ghana. We like the premier studio, and we always try to create something every year to put in festivals. And the reason why we do that is sort of like create what Africa animation should be like. So we do it local, but then we also push it globally. So after this, we go into ANSI, which is like the premier animation festival in the world. And we are the only African studio selected this year. And next project we're doing is a full feature film. And it's called Moon Girls. It's from a comic book series that's been running for the longest time. So with that, you know, hopefully, you know, we're actually working on that right now. So we should be done by next year.
Hans, next work coming up?
A lot of people, once they've been introduced to Hans and Jean, they fall in love with the little boy, and the question after that is, where's mom? And as I wrote the short, I had the whole story in my head of what happened to her, and so I've developed the short film into a longer piece. Goes more into the father's whys and Hans's relationships to school that he goes to, and just kind of him finding himself in this struggle for self between his Haitian identity and Black American identity and all that. Yeah.
The dad.
Mm-hmm.
The stare. He ain't have to say nothing, especially when they mentioned that EBT thing, because he was about to like, hello, go in. I want to see some little girls making these kinds of commentary representing today's youth. Anyone working on a film with little girls? All right, well, we got work to do. So that's for you, yes.
My next film has a protagonist that's a woman.
Say it one more time.
My next film has a protagonist that's a woman.
Is it titled as yet?
Yeah, it's
or-
called Miracle Leaves Her Body. It's a rape film.
See? I'm going to stop and ask you to ask a question if you'd like. Please do not make it a dissertation. The hour is drawing nigh. Come on. Yes. Would you introduce yourself? You might be famous and I know you. Oh, you are actually. Introduce yourself.
My name is Ntare Guma Bahamwine. I also have a film screening as a centerpiece film on Saturday. So thank you for asking me to plug that. But I got to know Devin over the course of the festival. Thank you for your work that you're doing to keep it all together. But I was blown away because I never would have thought you'd give birth to this film. Like, where did this come from? I'm curious to know what your connection is with the protagonist and how this came about.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Ntare. So it comes from a personal experience. When I was growing up, my family was a part of a church program, a Baptist church in the South. You know, great music, really big church, kind of grandiose. And then in this church program called YOU, we would have South African students visit for the summer, and we would all go to church camp, academic camp. They had sports, they had everything. So we really grew up with them. Their names was Asanda and Becky. And yeah, I really loved them, and we grew to have a bond. And when I was growing up with them, all my older brothers, all my siblings, we would all watch movies together in the family room, and we had to share a TV. So yeah, that's where it comes from. And my older brothers, Sana and Becky, they used to watch, all kinds of international cinema, like, weird stuff, like, in Spanish and French with subtitles, and I never understood it until I eventually started spending time on my own in my solitude, and I spent a lot of time watching films during, the streaming era. It was kind of when I was in high school. So that's how I got into it, and that's really what brought about my love for cinema and the diaspora as well.
Yes.
My question is for Adesola for Sister Salad Days. I was wondering more about what was your process in creating the family dynamic, and also did you feel any responsibility in sort of trying to represent that in a way that felt authentic and that felt, yeah.
Thank you for that question. With Sister Salad Days, it was really important to me to service the story, but also to write characters that didn't feel flat or flattened. I grew up in the Nigerian immigrant community in the metro Atlanta area, so I spent a lot of time with uncles and aunties at cousins' houses, and I feel that we would often soliloquize to each other about how lucky we felt just to be here, but I didn't always see a lot of storied or cinematic representations of interpersonal squabble, where people would miss each other, what kind of tensions would arise, especially when it came to trying to self-determine, especially for young girls. So I knew that I wanted to make a film about what would happen if there was a young girl in this community who was just kind of happenstance, disinterested in marriage, and the tensions that would pose in her family. My big goal, especially with the father character, was never to make him a villainous man, but to make him a really complex character who was trying within the frame of the world that he was raised in, from a religious standpoint, from an economic standpoint, to try and mold all the women around him into these particular people. But I tried over the course of the film to ensure that he has his mea culpa, he apologizes. There's not a lot of representation of African fathers apologizing in movies. So I knew I wanted to write a scene like that, but I also wanted to make sure that none of the women in the film were punished for being authentically themselves, that there was room for disagreement at the dinner table and elsewhere. And that even if they wanted to express and articulate their relationship to the divine in a way that looked different than their parents, they weren't punished, not within the narrative and not by God. So I thought about it a lot. I felt really grateful. I made this while I was in a director's fellowship in Atlanta called Resisting Narratives of Erasure. It was for Black feminist filmmakers. So I was really deliberate with thinking about the dialogue, the interpersonal relations, but also how the story ends for each character, and what I wanted to say through that.
I have to jump in, if it weren't so nigh with the night. I'm a double Dutch coach, by the way. Kaba. Same question for either of you, and that one being, when films of this nature and the beautiful presence of the women in the film generate the motherly, the sisterly, and that kind of energy. The mother in your film, and maybe in another case it might have been a mother or a father absent. How do you move around and through that to make sure that the depictions are not something that folks will look at you or look at the film askance?
Yeah, it's a very nice but also extremely difficult question that I can.
That's how I work.
Yeah. So to be honest, I have to jump back a little and say that the film was inspired by a dream that I had. It was just I had this dream that I kept remembering very well in reality, that I enter my mom room and I'm a kid and she's pregnant, and when I put my ears close to her belly I can hear my grandma. She's not speaking, but I know she's there. I know it's something like the film. I tried my best to explain to the sound designer, and he was like, "You're telling me a dream," and then I realized that at first this was a film about the boy, and that's how I wrote it. And then I realized, but if I'm the boy, then this is really not my film. I think this is the film about my mom, and how I watched her grieve my grandma, and how as growing up I didn't really understand her grief. She would tell us, yeah, we're a believing family, we're Muslim family, and she would say, yeah, we'll go to her one day, and I would ask, well, why are you grieving? Why are you sad? Why are you crying? Well, we're going to her. You asked me to believe this, so I believe this, and I started believing that she's dead. You say that, but she's not dead, you know. And this dream brought all of this back, and then suddenly it became this film about motherhood. And when the actress Mona Hala came in the picture, she's also an Austrian Egyptian actress, and she's somewhat famous in Egypt. She also put a lot of input on for her. She's not a mother. She doesn't have a kid, but she is gonna imagine with me and her, what's it like to depict motherhood. And she would ask me questions, and I would ask her as well. And it was the most beautiful thing for me to film. Number one, we found out that we have the same birthday, me and her, and that kind of made like this connection, that trust, and we were so in our personal lives. She told me everything about her personal life. I did the same with my relationship with my mom, the things I love about my mom, the things that bother me from my mom. And with this connection, the character in the film, the mother, was built, I think.
I'm going to go back to the audience, and then I'm going to come back to you, because there's a question that's been burning in my mind. So, question. Yes.
I have two separate questions for two different.
It might only be one.
That's fine. That's fine.
It's short.
No
Okay,
problem.
you can have two.
Devin, great film, first of all. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
My question to you was, you mentioned that you were shy, but in your movie it depicted so much life, and it was very comical. Like, how were you able to do that? Like, switch from your personal shyness, but make the movie the complete opposite of how you feel like you are.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Maya. Yeah, I really don't know. I just try my best. I think that's what it's about. I think all of us just have a lot of courage. Filmmaking is very, very tough. It's very expensive. It takes a lot of grit, and it takes a lot of persistence. So I think that's just where it comes from. I love cinema, and my passion carried me through. Also, my support carried me through. Like, I have a bunch of family here. I have a lot of friends here. You pulled up. So yeah, Maya's my friend. So yeah, I mean that's where it comes from. And then also, I think, doing like what you want to do, doing what you have to do. It's all about courage. Like, it's all about not about being scared, but doing what you have to do while you're scared. So pushing through. So that's.
Yes. Hi, my name is Sheena Zome. I have little to no connection to film, but I really, really loved your short film Noir. I think as a Nigerian American, raised in America, the dynamics of coming from an African household and them having their preconceptions about Black Americans, and like interacting with like Black America and like that culture and like the dynamics between it and the preconceptions of both was like something that deeply resonated with me. And I was wondering if the inspiration from that film came from a personal experience or just like general observations of the world.
Thank you for your question. Yeah, definitely personal. I'm a Haitian, born actually in France, and raised here in New Jersey, New York. Haitian with Haitian parents, and with a German name. My therapist. But yeah. So the specificity of the French language specifically, right? Because most Haitians speak Creole, and not everyone maybe is aware of the fact that there is this class difference dynamic between French-speaking Haitians and Creole-speaking Haitians. So there's that layer and then outside of that layer, the Black American versus just Haitian versus just being a human being on Earth trying to find their way, you know. So it was very, very personal. That specific event, I did not have the gall to actually do because I knew what was happening, but it happened to so many of my friends and so many of my cousins who would come home from the barbershop when they felt they had enough hair on their chest to make their own decisions, and got home and realized that they did not have the authority to make such decisions. My father, the person who inspired that character, he passed away when I was 12. His name was Franz. The kid's name is Franz, but and he was very much kind of going back to what you were saying. I didn't want the father to be just a pure villain, right? And it's easy in that movie specifically for the father to be a pure villain. So it was very, very important for me for that last scene for you to see him break. Because my father was that man. He was physically violent. He was emotionally violent. And yet he told me he loved me, and he kissed me on the forehead, and he hugged me. And I didn't know until I was an adult that there are so many men who didn't even get that from their fathers.
Wow, touching, very touching. The choral aspect of voices that was in the film, how did you come to make that choice? Because sometimes it's characterized as Greek chorus. It was a colored chorus.
Yes.
For real, for real.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. There's an image by Gordon Parks, the nuns. I don't know. It's a very famous image of like these nuns, and from the top down, you see there. It's like a sea of nuns. It's a beautiful image. If you don't know it, look it up. But the film allowed me at certain times to jump into different perspectives and jump into different realities. Right? There's most of the time the camera is like not moving. It's a very constraint world. That's why I didn't want the camera to move a lot. The only time the camera moves is when Franz is imagining something, or he thinks he's seeing something, or something's going to happen. So the barbershop scene, and when he thinks he's going to get a beating from his father. Then at the end, I play with the audience, and the camera moves, so you're not sure if it's real or if it's not. I don't know if it came across, but some people felt it. But anyway, so in those moments where he's in the barbershop and he's explaining how he got treated when he came to this country, it gave me another opportunity to connect the reality / memory / otherworldly aspects of the connection between father and son. So it kind of represented blackness, this oppressive, what you would think would be brotherhood in this country that wasn't. And I really wanted to be this overwhelming, sudden jerk of just oppressive energy, just speared towards the character and the audience in this, so you could feel really like those voices, the judgment, the faces, the world is against you, And when the father recounts that, I really wanted people to feel, as a person who thinks you finally found a safe place on this planet, and you see your faces that look like you, and then you are met with that. How scary, how sad, how frustrating. So that's what I did in those moments. Yeah.
Daty, since you'll be traveling and doing some more amazing international work, you have a very strong and conscious political side. Animation might be thought of as toy-like, and it's not. And maybe you can just expound on that, and I'll take one more question from the audience. I've been given not the high five, but only 5 more minutes.
I think for us, animation, we try to promote Africa animation. That's the goal of our studio, like compete at the highest level. So when we create content, we create content for the world to say, oh, this is coming from Africa. Because for a long time, Africa animation hasn't been up to par. So we're changing that. Even now, you have, you know, a lot of animators coming from Kenya, Uganda, that are doing stuff with like the Netflix, you know, and you know all those different places. So, and for us as an independent studio, we really pushing that envelope. So we've actually partnered with a lot of other Western production companies that are, you know, working with us to create, you know, different content. And something happened last year. We were very fortunate to actually produce LeBron James' 20th anniversary partnership with Nike. So we actually got commissioned to produce that piece. So yeah, so we you know we checking certain boxes as we're going along now. So.
Wow.
But also, you know, when I first came to this festival, I came with a documentary
Okay.
at Mazo.
All right, that's where we have a connection
Yeah.
as well. Go Knicks. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Hi, I'm Devin.
Last
Mom.
word.
My question is for Devin. The title of your movie.
You paid all these people?
The title of your movie is "Where Are You From?" Is that for the audience, or is that a question that you pose to yourself? Or both?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Mom. Yeah, I mean,
Mom has good credit, so run it.
yeah, she's the reason why I'm here.
Makes sense.
Yeah. But yeah, I think through posing the question to myself, then I can also pose the question to the audience. So I think, you know, looking at myself internally, I think then the audience themselves can look at themselves internally and see themselves in the film. Yeah, I also think Adesola should get another question.
Well, this is something that you would like to ask to one of your partner creatives right here in this lineup. Well, a good lineup. That's what I'd like you to do. Ask the question of one of the other makers.
I don't have a question for any of the other filmmakers. I think I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I usually like to try that out because sometimes there's a gem that comes from someone, but no press.
I think this person has
You-
a question.
Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Charlotte. I appreciated all these films. I was definitely crying through all of them too. They felt emotionally pulling and to all the characters understanding, but especially in Raw and Salad or
Sister Salad Days.
Sister Salad Days, yes. We kind of touched on it, but I think the complexities of the characters, like in both the fathers in both films. How, when you're creating a film like that, do you? Because I was able to feel all the layers. Like I was able to feel the layers of like, I'm just protecting my son, or I'm just protecting my daughter, and this is where I come from, or this is what I know, this is the best way I know to protect you, while also kind of feeling shame. You even saw in the father's face at the end, like, I don't want to do this to you, or the apology, I don't want to show up in this way, but this is all that I know. So I think like in the films too, how did you guys be able to depict such complexities within characters through like short films and just like looks, you know? Like
Well, the role of the father. Oh, I turned my mic on.
Yeah.
Can y'all hear me? Okay, here we go. So the role of the father is played by a local Atlanta actor, Gemma Williams, who's really, really fabulous. And a lot of the conversations we had were just about like Winston, the father character, feeling like he was like determined to be in control all of the time. And what would happen if he pushed up against the fact that he can't be in control all the time. Like he has agency just as the women in his lives do. So a lot of the ways that I tried to get into the complexity were like front-loading what it is that he wants, which is for him to have this like certain status in society, and the way that he kind of leverages his relationships with his wife and his daughters to try and gain that, but then being confronted with the reality that like what he wants isn't the story of the family. And that tension mounting so much in this kind of recurring way, you know, him having this like former daughter who he loses because of his ambition, and then the potential of losing his other daughter in a kind of different way. But it really forces him to have to confront himself. I think Deborah standing in her authenticity, his wife standing in her authenticity, forces him to confront himself. So I tried to balance like expressing his wants, and then him being put in a situation where people weren't just going to let him do whatever he wanted, and he had to, confront and kind of take accountability.
Well, thank you so much for deferring, because I'm really getting the high sign to wrap up. And hopefully we can have conversations among ourselves outside. Please be sure to share the information about the continuation of this festival, which is here for a few more days. There's materials outside that you can reference, because we're off to Maisels and BAM and parks and other venues. So thank you all so much. Let's give everybody a nice round of applause.